Welcome back. We're here for the Illumination series, Shout 7. Jeff is getting ready to channel ADAMUS. So, with that, let's begin as always with that good deep breath, that good deep breath of life. Let the energies flow with each breath, flowing through your body, allowing it, fully allowing that breath. Take that good deep breath, breathing into the I am that I am, I exist. Breathe into the heart of you with all that you are, loving yourself with each breath. Flow with it. Be with it. Open to ADAMUS. He's here with every breath. Breathe him in. He invites it, always. Take that good deep breath, allowing, flowing. That breath of presence. Honor yourself. Breathe as we move on.
I am that I am. ADAMUS of Sovereign Saint Germain. Greetings, everyone. Greetings and welcome to our Shout here live from the Amio retreat here in Kona, Hawaii. Let's take a good deep breath together as we begin our journey into this Shout. Good deep breath. Like the lyrics of the song say, you are only waiting for this moment to arrive, and how appropriate. How appropriate. I've got a big smile today because I realize that this is the culmination of so many lifetimes on this planet. Some of you have been around since the early Lemurian times, since the beginning of, the planet Earth. And here we are at this most amazing time. I know it's still rough on the human in a lot of ways, but when you really feel into it, when you really feel into your light, you realize just how far you've come in this lifetime. You knew it was going to be a tough one. You knew there was going to be challenges all the way along the way, and but you said I can handle it. I can take anything. And by the way, you notice I'm not incarnate on planet Earth. I don't know if I'd want to be there right now. It's so filled with challenges and twists and turns and confusion and then breakthroughs. Breakthroughs. We had a group here recently, right here in the Shumber Pavilion, and we talked about breakthroughs because this is the time for them. This is when it really starts happening more than ever. Now, I know for so many of you, the last couple of weeks have been filled with, been filled. A lot of emotions, a lot of internal stress, a lot of questioning, a lot of wondering what's happening around the planet right now. How come? What the hell? My light hasn't had a bit of difference on the planet. I know you're going through a lot of your own shifts and alterations and wondering what the hell is happening. Well, it's really quite simple, and it's almost kind of amusing, at least for me, maybe not for you yet, but at least for me, what's happening right now, it's all about light. Everything. Anything that's happening in your life right now with your body, with your emotions, with your mind, it's all about light. All about light. You see, Heaven's Cross was, about one year ago. There was an opening that allowed for a huge infusion of light onto the planet for those who were ready for it. And you've been bringing that into yourself. Now, in the meantime, you've been radiating it or letting it flow to an extent out to humanity, out to this planet. But most of it is this whole time of letting it come into you, letting it infuse into your body, letting your mind, your brain get comfortable and adjust to this new level of light. And a lot of it is new light. I've explained that before, but basically we have classic light, and then ultimately it becomes new light when it's combined with your wisdom. You got all this going on right now. No wonder sometimes you feel discombobulated, upside down, crazy, wondering what you should be doing, I want you to take a deep breath and feel with me for a moment. It's all about light, everything right now. In the past, I've said it's about your realization, and now it's even transcending that. It's about your light. And the light is the very reason you came here to the planet at this time. Realization's kind of a given. As I've said, Cthulhu has said, you already realized. Now you're just going through experience of what it was like to get there. How do you want to experience it? It's kind of a given. I don't even worry about it. Now the next level is light. What are you going to do with that light? How does it come into your being? How does it now start to try to harmonize with your physical body and your emotions? So I know so many of you have had a interesting couple of weeks, particularly from an emotional standpoint. But some of you, it's hit your body. It's all about light. 1 year of letting it come in, 1 year of absorbing it, 1 year of getting used to it in your own body. We can't go out there and do all this work for the planet, not on the scale that we're going to, until it's integrated within you, until you begin to really understand what it is, what's happening with it, how to work with it. Now, as Cauldre and Linda mentioned in their opening comments, the focus of the workshops, the live workshops here in Kona right now, has been along that line about the light, exploring new light, and about the metaphysics of the mind, really going to the next level. And I'm delighted, and that's why I'm smiling today, is because when I came in back in 2009, I wasn't sure how far we would get. And here we are now, reaching that time when we're talking about the personal use of light, not just cleaning out old wounds and issues, but talking about that, and at the same time talking about the new love. The new light, the new love, they go hand in hand. They work together. And that's exactly what you're going through right now. Some of you have had emotional issues over the last few weeks with loved ones, because we're moving to that next level of light and love 2.0 on the planet. So you're feeling it. It's showing up in your life, and you wonder, I've had more calls from Shaumbra in the last couple of weeks than I can remember in a long, long time. More late night desperation type of things, and not what it used to be, not the old ones where it was, should I even stay on the planet right now, or what's life all about? But now it's like, how do I handle all this? What should I do next? And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Wow.
So, Linda, have you noticed anything last couple of weeks in particular?
Yeah, a lot of discomfort.
Discomfort. That's a good way of putting it. Discomfort. Because as this light comes in, as you allow it to be absorbed, it will cause some discomfort in your physical body, if nothing else. Is that where your discomfort is, or with Cauldre?
No, he's pretty good. He's a little cranky, but he's pretty
A little
good.
cranky. Yeah, well, he calls me up a lot, and he's really cranky. But yes, it causes discomfort because all of the old systems are, well, they're changing. They're getting altered right now. So there definitely is a discomfort.
It's actually a comfort to hear that.
It's a comfort to hear about your discomfort. Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, at least you know there's a reason. It's not just because
Right.
you're going crazy or you did something wrong or you can't handle it. All of you, Shaumbra, are handling it quite well under the circumstances. Quite well.
Good.
Because it is such a change on the planet that it's never seen before. You're going through a whole new species of the human being on the planet. That transformation, everything having to do with AI right now. It's remember we started talking about it many years ago with Shaumbra, and now it's everyday news. It's all over the place, and it's going to continue. It's not a fad, not at all. And as I've recommended to Shaumbra, you don't have to understand computer programming, but feel into the energies of artificial intelligence and technology, what it's going to do to reshape humanity, the potentials that it has, but also some of the potential problems. Caldera is reminding me of something that came out this week. I don't even think it hit mainstream news, but there was an incident brought to the Crimson Circle staff's awareness by your technical director,
Right.
Jorge, that there was a potential for a massive computer, what do you call it, hack or virus to take place that would have shut down literally 90% of the world's servers. And it was thwarted at the last minute. Hasn't made the big time news quite yet, but these things are happening all over the planet. And the question that Jorge asked, and I'll answer for you, Jorge, you said, did our light have anything to do with preventing that massive hack of the Linux system? And the answer is yes. At the last minute, somebody happened to notice a bit of odd code and caught it before it went out. And this was a plan that had been underway for years of time, quietly behind the scenes, to cause a massive shutdown. Yes, and the other part of Jorge's question was this the big one I talked about? No, it was not, because there's other people. Hey, you wonder, why would somebody do that? Why how do they benefit? What's the thrill? Do they benefit financially? What would motivate someone or groups to do it?
Power.
Power, absolutely power, and partly because they cannot handle the light that's coming in, and it's all tied in. It's similar to power, but they simply can't handle the light. And they're feeling something is happening, and they don't quite understand what it is or why they're opposed to it. But, the old power bases don't want to give up, and they're being pinched right now due to the new light coming in. And again, not aware that's what it is, but they just feel they have to defend their stronghold or their power. So all this is happening right now, and everything that's happening to you, take a look at from the standpoint of it's all about light.
Wow.
I mean, everything, not just a little, everything in your life right now, from your decisions and choices to issues that come up to the surface, to releasing old ways of doing things and moving into the new, and especially right now with love, having to do with love. The planet, this planet is the planet of love. This is where love was first experienced and where love has been a part of life ever since. It's been such an integral part, but that is changing as well. A lot of the old love was based in power and abuse. And as you talk about when you were discussing the sexual energy school, a lot of it's just based in the sexual imbalances, the energy and consciousness imbalances. All that is changing. I ask you to feel right now into your own light. Your own light. And the fact that there's more light, if you could measure it, there's more light. But a better way of actually putting it is there's a brighter light, a cleaner light, a fresher light that's coming in. If you feel into it, what you're doing, assimilating it into your own being right now. And then take a moment, too, to remember, as you're feeling into your light, remember that you chose to be here on the planet, incarnate, for this. So yes, it's going to feel a little uncomfortable, and hopefully by talking about it, make you feel more comfortable about your discomfort, but it's going to make you feel discomfort in your body. Definitely the emotions lately, I've really been seeing that. And in your basic perception of self, the old, who am I? And you kind of had a definition or a place for it. And that's evolved over the years. But the who am I? In suddenly, that's all shifting and changing. I want you to understand, I want you to be comfortable with the discomfort. I want you to be okay that everything is changing right now. It's the light. you've rehearsed for this. In your dream state, in our gatherings in the other realms, we've rehearsed for this. Not that we knew all the particular details, but we rehearsed in what it would be like to allow more light in. We've talked about in the other realms, we've talked about this time of change. And one of the funny things about Shaumbra, funny as in odd, not as in humorous, but one of the funny things is that you say, I can take anything. I can handle anything. Don't worry about me, Saint Germain. I can go down there. I've had 1,000 lifetimes. I can handle this one. And then things get rough at times. That's when you take a deep breath. You take a good deep breath and realize that you're here. You're here absolutely at the perfect time. That's what you're here for. Now, let's get on with the work and the fun and the joy and the gratification of working with the light. So some of you new to Crimson Circle, welcome. Namaste and all the rest of that. Welcome. Aloha, Cauldre says. Some of you are quite new. We talk a lot about physics of things, or metaphysics, and we've been talking for years now about consciousness. It's the core of everything. It's actually the only thing. It's the core of everything, and consciousness is simply awareness. Consciousness brings life to life. Without consciousness, nothing would exist. If there was no consciousness, thank you, Belle. If there was no consciousness on there'd be no planet. There'd be no reality. Even consciousness in the other realms, there has to be awareness or consciousness. It's not physical. It doesn't get bigger or smaller. It just is. So the next step in that is energy. Energy is the passion of consciousness to express, to feel, to be, to really love itself. So there's this thing called energy, and it's unique and sovereign to each and everybody. It doesn't belong to some great big universal energy field. It's yours. And what energy is communications. Not a power. It doesn't contain positive and negative attributes. It's simply the harmonics of the soul, the song of the soul. Once you really understand that, you start to understand how everything else works after that. If you realize energy just isn't a force, energy isn't something that slaps you upside the head or doesn't come to you in terms of lightning bolts or anything like that. It's an expression. It's communication. Everything within your being communicating with everything in your being all the time. So now, after that comes light, and that's what we're here to talk about today and going well into the future. Light. Some people look at light as with a physical eye, in terms of the physics or the science of light. And according to modern physics and science, light is they're photons. Light is either a waveform or a particle. Light is something that brings illumination to darkness, a dark area. Light comes from the sun. And such a belief in that light comes from the sun or other stars in the galaxy, but that's a scientific look at light. It's really almost humorous in a way. It's so archaic. Light comes from far, far beyond the sun or stars or anything like that. But that's science looking at light, and it's fine. Then you have religions, or even the New Age, which is a religion, talking about light. And for them, it's an opposing force to darkness, because there's a lot of darkness out there, and you got to bring a lot of light. And we've had this battle going on for as long as one can possibly remember. Long before Earth was even Earth, there was this constant battle between light and dark, of the forces of good and the forces of evil, and often thought in terms of the polarity, negative and positive, and breaking it down to duality, and always opposing forces. I would have thought beings would have gotten tired of this opposing force thing a long time before now, but it's been going on, and it's still being battled. And Tobias said it many years ago, no side is going to win. Light is not going to defeat the dark, and the dark is not going to defeat the light. Because ultimately, there really isn't light and dark. It's only in the mind of the observer that there's light and dark. That you could say that they wanted the duality for the sake of looking in the mirror. Somebody would say, well, light can know more about itself by looking in the mirror of darkness, but not really needed anymore. We don't need all these opposing forces. So from a religious standpoint, a spiritual New Age standpoint, light is the goodness and dark is the bad guy. Actually, one of the landmark channels from Tobias, if you haven't read it or heard it, look it up. It goes way, way back. But in that very short channel, short because Galdra felt he had to get out of the room quickly, very short, and he said, your darkness is your divinity. It's that place where you take all your trash, all your even karma, all your things you don't love about yourself, and you throw it into this thing and call it darkness. But it's actually your divinity. In other words, there really is no darkness until you perceive there is, and you start using that as your landfill for all the crap that you think you've done. So that's kind of the religious, kind of the New Age view of light and dark. But it's pretty clueless, in my opinion, my humble opinion, of course.
Humble?
Humble. Yes, I said the word humble. And now let's talk about real metaphysics. What is light? Well, I contend that light is imagination. Whereas you have consciousness is awareness, energy is communication, light is imagination. Now, it causes you to maybe scratch your head. What does he mean by that? I use my imagination, but it's this kind of wacky part of my brain my daydreaming side of the brain. Not at all. Imagination is the very thing that brings reality together, makes reality possible. It uses energy, and then it is imagined by either you or what you would call your soul or your master. The master being master self, sometimes called the oversoul. It's the culmination, the collective of all your human lifetimes. They are all imagining. Right now, your soul is imagining. It's using light. It is light. The master is imagining. And imagining doesn't necessarily mean, doesn't have to be a desire or a want. Imagining is just feeling into, well, your consciousness, basically, your reality, your experiences. And to go a step further, true imagining actually does not come from the brain or what you would call the mind. The brain mind has its own kind of quasi-imagination abilities, but it's relatively limited to what it's known in the past. I call it qualia, the association from something that happened before. So your mind uses a kind of a cheap version of imagination, but it's all based on something you've seen or done or heard before. It could be from a pickup line from a movie or something that you read about or your own personal experiences. And the mind imagines that. There's a beauty in it. You want the mind to be able to imagine. You want the mind to be able to take all of the stories that you've had and imagine them in different ways. Take parts and pieces from this or that, or reimagine a story. Let's say a traumatic story in your life and reimagine it. It's actually even good for your mind and your brain to imagine a past lifetime. But understanding that that lifetime may or may not have occurred on this planet in physical form, it could have occurred in the other realms. But back to the premise, the mind, the light is imagination. The moment one imagines, energy is brought forth and transformed into light. And that light ultimately creates what you would call reality. The human tries to imagine themselves as being rich or famous, but what generally happens is the human self-defeats. Their own, they do their own form of energy feeding. And 1 minute imagining themselves as rich and famous and helping everybody on the planet or whatever it happens to be, and the next minute the mind is also pulling all the old data records and saying, no, you're a failure. You couldn't do that if you tried. You don't have the magic, you don't have the intelligence, you don't have the money, or whatever it is. So imagination often becomes self-defeating. The true imagination comes beyond the mind. And yes, the human can do it because you don't need to be in the mind or the brain to truly imagine. There's something beyond that, and not just the master or the soul, but there's something for the human beyond that. And as more and more light comes in, even if it feels uncomfortable at times, it is also bringing in more potential for imagination, more unlimited imagination. And that's what's happening right now. The mind doesn't always register it because it's beyond the mind's purvey or beyond its ability to remember. But it's happening, and that creates even more discomfort because you know something is happening. You know it's happening, but you can't quite put your finger on it.
But having a sense of what it is automatically helps mitigate that as an issue.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I'm here talking about it today.
Thank you.
That's why I get paid the big bucks.
Thank you.
Or actually why I'm president of the Ascended Masters Club. And I'm joking, and Calder sometimes gets embarrassed, which maybe he should, but it's all a way of saying you have to be able to talk well about yourself. And I push Shambra buttons because I talk about being the president, which I truly am, of the Ascended Masters Club. Or I talk about, the being grand and oh, Shambra, they get so embarrassed, but you got to be able to talk good about yourself because nobody else is going to. And then be able to laugh at yourself also. It's actually very refreshing and it's freeing to be able to do that. So back to light. What is light? Light is imagination. And not just the imagination of the human, but of the master. The master is imagining right now all of its lifetimes, because they're all taking place at the same, time isn't the right word, but they're all taking place in the same kind of sequence, in the same circle. So all the lifetimes are taking place, and the master is imagining these, including the imagination from the enlightened lifetimes, and finally the ultimate lifetime of ascension. The master doesn't worry about getting there. The master doesn't even worry about how to use the light because, well, that's what it does best. The master is imagining now itself as the human coming to its first understanding, real understanding of light. And that's what you're experiencing. The master doesn't jump in and interfere and say, here's what to do, here's how to do it, but you can access that part of self at any time, as you can access the soul. Part of Heaven's Cross opened those doors as well. But very few Shambhar are venturing outside the limitations of their mind or body or their very limited environment. But ultimately, light is imagination. Imagine that for a moment. Light is just imaginings of the soul, the master, and the human. Mm. So you say, so if the soul is imagining and the master is imagining, how come I'm not receiving the benefits of it? How come, it seemed that I'm so blocked out from it? Well, partly it's just an old bad habit, and partly because the master and the soul would never inflict that on you. You're there to experience it for yourself in human form and to understand that it's the same light as the master or the soul, but now it's up to you. What do you want to do with it? Where do you want to go with it? How do you want to bring light into your life? And one of the things that Schomburg does right away, I'm going to bring in light and save the world.
Oops.
Oops is right. Big oops. The light that you assimilate into your being and radiate ultimately helps the planet. But if your agenda is to save the world, you're going to have problems. Yeah, you're screwed. You're going to have problems. They don't want to be saved. You're not the savior. Jesus tried that, and that was a whole different story. You're going to hear from him at the Metaphysics of the Merlin event. But
Wow.
it's not up to you to save the world. Back off. They're going through exactly what they're choosing, as you did. Back off. Don't inflict your agenda. And as I told you many years ago, the moment you try to save the world, in other words, change it based on your perceptions, it's going to try to change you. It's like a boomerang. It'll come right back around. So this light is yours. It's personal. It's unique. It's sovereign. So next question or topic is, well, how do you get this light? Oh, we've got Heaven's Cross. We've got these big holes now in the sky, and it's pouring in. Well, for one thing, it's not pouring in. It's started to trickle in, and then the trickle has been increasing now to more of a flow, but it's coming in. How do you get the light? Well, first of all, I want you to double check. Why do you want it? I know why, but why do you want it? More power? Hopefully not, because it's only going to hurt. Light and power do not mix very well. Not at all. The light I'm talking about. Those who use it for power, it really backlashes on them. Maybe not right away, but later on. They're almost like opposites. They're almost like oil and water. They just don't mix. There have been those who were trying to achieve power and then also trying to do witchcraft, black magic, and I'm not just talking about the gnome in the woods or the witch in the woods, but world leaders that have tried to use dark magic to gain more power. It can be somewhat successful because essentially what you're doing is focusing your energy. But once they tried to bring in more light, then it really hurts and blows up on them. And so, yeah, light and power don't work. So asking yourself, why do you want more light? Why do you want more light? Feels good? Not always, particularly if you're going through this period of discomfort right now. Why do you want more light? Well, good answers. Many of you got it right away. It's more of you. It's more of self. It's more of your birthright. It's just being in touch with you. It's not about power. It's not about getting out your lightsaber. It's not about lighting up the world. It's not about even necessarily coming back to your light body. It's just more presence, more of self. Part of self that's been cut off for a long, long time, and now it's coming in. So, good answers, a lot of you. And a lot of you, I heard somebody say, I don't know. You just don't say that here in Crimson Circle. You don't say, I don't know. You can say, I have yet to realize the answer. I'm getting there, but I don't know really sets up a mind trap for you, and then you don't know. I mean, energy is pretty literal. Okay, you don't know. So how do you get light? And I say more, but it's not really a quantity. It's just I don't know. It's a illumination. It's a brightness. It's a purity. So how do you get that? I'm asking all of you. Good. We have some excellent chamber here today. Allowing, absolutely, you allow it. You don't force it. You don't use your human brain to try to figure out how to get more in from the other realms. You don't pray for it. You don't beg for it. You don't do more suffering. You shouldn't do, some of you do, more suffering to think you're earning the light. Not at all. You simply allow it. You take a deep breath, receive the light. That's it. It's about that simple. The brain jumps in and says, am I really doing anything? Well, yes, you are, because you just said, I allow more light. Shut up, brain. Yes. Why do you question me all the time, brain? What's going on? I allow more light. So let's take a moment to do just that. Take a good deep breath and allow. Boom. That's it. Allowing means you're kind of opening up. You're letting down the barriers, the shields, the questioning, all the rest of that. You're just allowing. It's mindless. I mean, meaning you don't have to use your brain. You just take a deep breath and you allow, and that light comes in. That light really comes into your body, your mind, your brain, into your reality. Again, if you feel into this, light is imagination. If you just brought in more imagination, what does that mean? What does that mean? More imagination. And not just the type of daydream imagination or dreamy time imagination, but more potentials. More potentials. Breaking out of old ruts, breaking out of limitations. You can imagine. Now you're free to imagine as you want because there's more light. And as you imagine, as you feel into it and imagining, then it starts shaping into reality at some point. So you can be in the imagination, not just imagining it, but literally being into it. You don't have to imagine yourself as being young or wealthy or anything like that. The imaginations are more into things like joy. Just imagine joy. Imagine peace of mind. We've had some excellent gatherings here lately, and we've done just this. We've imagined on what I would call a grander scale, an open scale. And you don't have to fill in the details. You don't have to start imagining that your car, is working, or you imagining that your house is okay. You don't have to do that. That's where energy comes in. It takes care of it. But imagining the very kind of life, feeling into the very kind of life you want, and then living it and being it. So it comes a time right now where there's more light on the planet available to you, more light coming in. And it causes some discomfort. And what it's doing, it's creating cracks in all the old systems, starting with yourself, cracks in your body, causing cracks in your mind, in your brain, cracks in your reality perception. You can almost feel it like you've got these walls within, and they're all starting to crack. Cracks in your emotional stability, cracks in your physical body. As the light comes in, it creates more cracks. Cracks are there so the light can come in. The light isn't trying to intentionally break you apart, but there's got to be a crack in the old system so that light can come in. And then as it does, it starts streaming in and starts flowing, and it starts changing a lot of those old systems. It literally also allows you to start, it changes your perception. And ultimately, that means changing the way you think, changing the fearful way you might have thought, or the limited way you might have thought. The light comes in and does that, not as a force, but as a gift. The light comes in and helps free you from the very things you've been trying to get rid of for a long time. And in the meantime, the light also illuminates the light body that is already there. The light body has been kind of, I don't know, you could sealed up, put away, but it's always been there. The light body you did that so you could experience more of the physical body, but now cracks are developing in that encasement of the light body so that the light can come through, the light from your inner light body. So yes, in a manner of speaking, right now you're cracking up, and when you realize why, and you realize the good that it's doing, and you realize it's part of a natural process, then it's not so scary. And again, everything I'm talking about here is related to you. Don't inflict this on other people. Don't make other people have to be a part of it. They may end up being a part of it, but don't require that if you're going through this process that you have to include your children or loved ones or anything else. It's a very beautiful and personal thing. So feel into that for a moment. Everything starts cracking. And the purpose is for the light to stream through. Systems that have been in place, your personal systems that have been in place for a long time, they start cracking. And the light can stream through. Now, cracking is a whole lot better than exploding, blowing apart. You see, you just develop these little hairline cracks in the old system, and light can flow right through that. And then it turns it into bigger cracks, and pretty soon is dissolving all of the old encasements of your beliefs, of your patterns, of your prisons that you put yourself into, your traps. And that's exactly what the light is doing right now. Right now. Let's take a good deep breath and feel into that. You're cracking up so that the light can stream through. And it's a good thing. You're not having mental breakdowns, although it may seem like it, or physical, or for some of you lately, the emotional breakdowns. You're just letting the light come through now. And yeah, it can be tough on the body, and tough on the mind, and particularly right now on the emotions. And you're just letting it happen. So take a good deep breath with that. So there is your inner light, and we've been talking about your inner imagination. This is the very thing that is really coming to the forefront right now. And please, you don't have to work at it. You don't have to turn it into a process or do a long ritual over it. Just allow it. Let it know that it's happening. And what's happening with it is it's primarily affecting, it's affecting a number of areas, but one is your light body. Your light body is a non-physical thing. It's not shaped like a physical body or like a cookie-cutter doughboy or anything like that. Your light body is simply the expression of you, the imagination, without having to have a physical body. Feel into that for a moment. The light body is the image or the imagination of self beyond the physical body. It doesn't have physical attributes at all, and it's really not like shining light, not really. I mean, but you can imagine it that way. It's yourself incarnate, but yet not in physical form. You can be incarnate, you can be in existence, and that existence can ultimately have a time or a space factor to it if you want, but it can be free of time and space. It's the very thing that allows you to be here and anywhere all at the same time. In the light body, there's no distance between any points whatsoever. The moment you imagine, you're there. Now, I know a lot of you want to do teletransporting of yourself from here to the other side of the planet. It's hard to do in the physical body for a variety of reasons, but in your light body, you're already there. Now, it may get to the point where you can clearly imagine your physical body and be on the other side of the planet then. But you're not really in a physical body. You're in an imaginary physical body. But let's not focus on that. That's child's play. We have a lot of other things to do. So initially, the inner light that you've been bringing in more and more for this last year, building a foundation, infusing more and more, settling into it, getting used to it, understanding it, having it now integrate with all parts of you, and then sprinkling it with your wisdom. That inner light is having a dramatic impact on your light body to the point where it, I always hesitate to put a date or time, pretty soon, to the point where pretty soon you're going to be able to identify with your light body. Maybe not see it with your eyes, but you'll know it's there. It will have presence to it. Not necessarily weight, and it's not like you're going to look in the mirror and say, oh, there's my light body. I need to go on a diet for my light body. That's a human. But you're going to have awareness of the presence of your light body. And with that awareness, it'll have an impact on your physical biology because, first of all, you'll realize that you're really not your physical body. Secondly, your physical body will start to take on attributes of the light body, attributes such as a much less complex communication network of your body, attributes of being able to see without eyes, see, to have awareness without having to have physical eyes. With a light body, the ability to not have to eat unless you want to eat. With the light body in particular, some of you applaud at this, you can eat all you want, and the light body knows how to flow out the energies that are not being used by the physical body. So there's a lot happening right now at those deep levels, and that's why some of you are going through a fair amount of pain and body adjustments right now. The inner light also dramatically affects the mind and thoughts and the brain. The brain is this physical thing on top of your head, of course. There are really no thoughts in it. It's this big, massive kind of a processor. It's got all these neurons and all these synapses taking place at any given moment. It's almost amusingly archaic how old and outdated it is. It'd be like trying to bring in a steam engine to run a computer right now. It's like kind of old technology. Then there's your mind. The mind doesn't exist inside your brain, or it doesn't really exist anywhere in time and space, and that's the beauty of it. But the mind is a very thing that forms thoughts and beliefs and perceptions of reality. The mind is the thing that determines what reality looks like, but it's often influenced or heavily influenced by things like mass consciousness and hypnosis. But the light now that you have from within starts affecting the brain, your thoughts, and that's why some of you can't remember shit. You can't remember anything. And right away, typical of Shambra, oh, what's wrong with me? I'm getting old, and I'm sure I have Alzheimer's. No, unless you want it. But what's happening right now is the whole way of thinking changes. So it's not a linear process. It's not based just on the past or qualia. It's not necessarily logical unless it needs to be logical, such as driving a car. You become much more intuitive. Answers are there much quicker. You don't have to go through a very complex process in the brain to figure things out. It's what some would call the creative mind, because it is you are the creator, not just creative as in drawing or painting, but you are creating. And that's why I call it the creative mind, the divine mind. It's so much more efficient. It's so much more efficient than the human brain and the human mind. It's much freer. And because it is now absorbing more and more light, there's more and more imagination. That's a challenge for some of you because you've restricted your imagination. You only let yourself imagine what you think you can actually manifest, what you think you can bring into reality, because otherwise it was just a waste of imagination or otherwise it was, well, frustrating because you imagined something and it didn't happen. So you kind of gave up on the imagination, but now it's coming back with the light. Not just imagining this lifetime, this realm, but to be able to imagine into the other realms as well. And once again, underline it a bunch. This is all natural. Don't work at it because you're right back to square one, the brain and the mind, trying to figure this all out. And they can't. This is light, your light coming in, and it's imagination. So all this is taking place right now. It's taken a year after Heaven's Cross to bring in that light, absorb it, get familiar with it, get used to it. And now it is time for us to start using it. As a matter of fact, I would say going forward, it's now all about the light, all about using it in your personal life and also shining it out to the world. I'll just use a marker just for the convenience of remembering that this is a transition point for us. Hopefully, we've gone beyond most of the old processing in your wounds and your inner child traumas and all the rest of that, and we're beyond that now. We're into the real work of why you came here. Let's go ahead and use the definitive date for now. We're into the light. We are masters of the light. It's all about the light. And let's just call it April 8th, 2024. That's a date that's coming up. It's a big solar eclipse in North America, and there's going to be many people looking up to the sun as the eclipse takes place, and then having eyeball problems. But but it's kind of interesting too. It ties in a way with a total eclipse. It's the blocking of the light and then the reopening, the new light. So it's kind of symbolic for us. The eclipse by itself, I mean, it's astronomical event. It's somewhat of an astrological, but let's just use it as our symbol of transitioning from old limited light now to new light. So, and the dates work out well too. April is a 4 number, the 8th of April, and then 2024. A lot of 8s and 4s and 2s, and it's really cool. Doesn't mean much, but it's really cool. So let's use that as a definitive date. It's saying now it's into the light. It's about the next level that of our work together, your work here on the planet. So on April 8th, let's all do a big kumbaya. Not. But take that time to acknowledge that we're now going into the light, working with it. So we talked about the inner light, and I've talked much more in detail about this in some of the recent gatherings. We're going to be talking more in Kihak, but I wanted to bring that out today. External light now. The very same light in a way, but it's personal to everybody, but it's happening on a mass consciousness basis. That very same light is coming to your planet. And look what it's doing. It's cracking things. It's cracking a lot of old systems. And it's causing a lot of stress right now. When you introduce new light into an old, rather hostile environment, it creates a lot of stress, and that's what's happening. You're going to feel the stresses in everything, in politics, stress. You're going to feel it in the environment, a lot of it in the environment. And yes, some of it's due to global climate change, the carbon footprint, things like that. But more than that right now, it's simply more light coming to the planet, Gaia leaving, and it's going to stress and crack systems. It's all appropriate that these old systems really start breaking down. And then it goes on and on into just about any system you could think of. The light itself is not trying to change anything. The light is not a force that comes in with a sledgehammer or a big tank with guns on it. It's not trying to do that. The light is flowing in naturally, and light itself is, you could say, is very smooth, very beautiful and gentle because it is imagination. So now here you have on the planet more imagination, more light, 3% more light than we did a year ago. It doesn't sound like a big number, but it ultimately is. And this light is coming into the planet, and it's made available for people individually, but also on a mass consciousness basis. That light is coming in, and there's a tremendous amount of stress. That light is coming in even to the point where it's affecting what's in the ground, not just plants, but people that are buried in the ground. You know, there was a residual energy that stayed there. And for any of you who can feel the energies, you go to a cemetery or a haunted house or something like that, it's very real. The energies are still lingering. At least part of the energy from the original occupants of, let's say, a house or a battlefield is another big one, or a cemetery. The light is illuminating those areas and causing all that to start now lifting up or releasing, going back to the original state of pure energy. You're right in the midst of all of it. You're right here, but actually helping to facilitate it. So it's kind of your fault.
There's a lot of weird earthquakes. Is that related?
Yeah, you're going to see it in everything. As the light comes in, it touches everything. It cracks everything. The earth, but the weather in general, it's all related to this. And a lot of Shumber wake up in the morning and say, I can't handle this anymore. The world's a bad place. And, you know, we were supposed to bring in more light. Well, you are. And it's changing things. It's cracking things. And the crack occurs so the light can come streaming in. So you're in this period right now of upheaval, all while things are moving very, very fast on the planet. You're feeling all this upheaval. And this is a great time to stand behind the short wall. Not get all tangled in it. Oh, it's you don't want to get tangled in this one. There's so much going on, and it's so dramatic and emotional. So you stand behind the short wall, and you let your light radiate. You let it come through a master who has wisdom. Without agenda, you let that light radiate onto the planet, onto people, not forcing anything, but affecting change. And then watch how what seems to be the planet headed in a not so good direction. I mean, you have wars right now. You've got international power competition like you've never seen before. You've got all this stuff happening, and now as you shine your light, watch how that begins to change things. It's not going to happen overnight that everything suddenly gets all beautiful and happy and peaceful, but it runs the power bastards out of town. And it changes a lot of old systems. It is what was imagined or dreamt of this planet being the true planet of love and of inspiration and of divinity, of realization and ascension. That's why you're here. That was your dream or your imagination. So in a way, you're now bringing in your own light, what you dreamt of or you imagined a long time ago. Not forcing it on the planet, but making it as available as a very real and potent option. It's all about light right now. It's all about light. Let's turn on a little music and bring that to Marab. Let's take a good deep breath together. All about light. We'll be talking more and more about light in our upcoming sessions and Kihak and other things. But right now, I'd like you to just be comfortable with your light. It's not a power or a force. Remember, it's imagination. Just imagine more imagination. And particularly now with your increasing level of wisdom, how beautiful it is to be able to imagine openly and freely. Light is imagination, and that's such a beautiful thing. Others can say it's scientific fact. It comes from the sun, but no. Light doesn't come from the sun. Not real light. It comes from the soul, from the I am. I mean, that'd be really kind of a crappy setup, that light just comes from this big burning star in the sky. That's one of the ways it can manifest, but true light is far different. It's imagination. Imagine right now you having more imagination. Less boundaries, more freedom. Not just having to imagine a little better human life, but imagining into who you truly are. Imagining yourself free of the human condition while still being in the human body on the physical planet. And imagine how you're in your own flow again. You're in your own grace. No longer down there on the planet alone, having to battle it out, to just get enough to get by. Imagine your own grandness. Let's take a deep breath together and allow that light now to flow in. And light is not a force, and it's not just something that breaks through darkness. It's so much more. It's the soul imagining itself in experience as a human. It's the master imagining the circle of itself, all the lifetimes and all the experiences, and then ultimately the realization. Ultimately the gathering of all the experiences of every lifetime, and now bringing all of them together in this thing called realization. Imagine yourself with no suffering. No need for suffering, no taking that suffering upon yourself for the human that one would call flawed. But imagine no suffering whatsoever. Imagine what that feels like, no suffering for you. And as this light flows into this planet, into you, it definitely affects love. Imagine now that you've experienced love in many of your lifetimes. You've experienced lack of love. You've experienced the beauty and harshness of love. Imagine now going to that next level of love, what we call love 2.0. Grounded and based in a love of self, and therefore the ability to have compassion and awareness of others. You see, that's the light, the very light that has been coming in for the last year. You've been learning to acclimate to it, to integrate it into your being. And now comes the time, we're going to call it April 8th, 2024. Now comes the time we're going to start working with it, experiencing it, playing with it. The word work sounds bad to some, but having fun with it. Where it goes from being a concept or kind of an idea, a theory now, into actually working with light. Working with light is going to be a little challenging up front because at first you're going to want to think about working with light, and you really can't. I mean, that's not very effective. Working with light in terms of really finding your passion, what's important to you, your true desires, and then bringing them to the light, bringing them to imagination. There's going to be the tendency to want to think through it, and everybody's going to have that happen. You're going to definitely want to think through it, and it's very ineffective. Why? Because, well, there's not a lot of light in your thinking. There's not a lot of imagination. It's based on a lot of old association, but we'll go beyond that. We'll learn to work with light. Learn to work with imagination in creating realities here, maybe in other places as well, but primarily here. Can you imagine for a moment playing with your own light? There's almost a childlike feel to it, an innocence to it. At the same time, then playing with this new light that I've talked about, the light that also has your wisdom in it. What can you create? There's some interesting parallels that are taking place right now. This whole thing with artificial intelligence, many of you, Shambra, have played with it a little bit in, what do they call it, ChatGPT, or some of the, I have to refer to Calder here, Mid-Journey, some of the graphics programs. So you go in and play with it. You input something into ChatGPT, and you get back this, wow, this big long thing. In a sense, it's playing with light, in this case through technology. You input, I don't know, a dozen keywords into one of these graphic programs, and you click the button for it to generate for you, and you're astounded at what it can do. By the way, this is just the beginning of this whole new era. But the point is, you click it and it's like, wow, something happened here. It wasn't just the words I punched in, and it wasn't just computers, piecing it together. Yes, that was part of it, but something else is happening here. Well, playing with the light means infusing your consciousness, not getting stuck in it. You've done that before in your physical body, but being able to infuse your consciousness into things, into placing your consciousness wherever, and then watching what happens without a predetermined outcome. You see, because predetermined outcomes are linear and they come from the mind, but to play with light is to be able to put your consciousness where you want and then watch what happens from there. That's what we're going to do. Consciously infuse and see what we created, see what you created. It's the next step in our time here on the planet. To get to this point really required having to clear a lot of wounds and imbalances and all the rest of that. But now we're finally getting to that point. Yes, there's still some residues, but we're getting to that point now where we can truly start consciously working with light, with imagination, without ever now worrying that once you infuse that you're going to get stuck. It's not going to happen anymore. You get stuck into this body, mind, but imagine being able to consciously infuse with a lot of light and then experience it. That's where we're going, dear Shambhala. That's why I've had to be pretty insistent about cleaning out your house, physically, literally, but also the house of self. Clean it out, because the light, when you bring light into places of power or imbalance, the result isn't so good. You don't get cracks anymore. You get explosions, nuclear reactions. That's why we've had to do so much to get to this point. Let's take a deep breath and imagine into your light. This is where true creativity, the true creation comes in. And all the while, as you're opening to your light, you're letting it radiate first to yourself, giving yourself this gift of imagination, but then it flows out to the planet. And know that was a big, big desire of yours coming into this lifetime, to bring light to the planet, and that's noble, but remember to do it for yourself also. Let's take these few remaining minutes left in this shout and do just that. Allowing light, your light, to go deep, to go wide within yourself. Imagination is, well, it's like magic. Not spooky magic, but I mean, imagination opens everything up so that what they call magic occurs. But magic is simply alignment with the divine and going beyond the current light, the current limits. Take a good deep breath and allow that light. It's yours, after all. It's yours. Right now, it's all about light. What are we going to do with it? How are we going to play with it? How can we playfully infuse it into things? Take a good deep breath and feel this. I am the light. I am the imagination. And just allow it. You don't have to force it. Just allow it. Let it flow. So let's mark April 8th, 2024 on the calendar as our official begin date of Into the Light, Masters of the Light. We start acknowledging now it's been brought in, and let's start using it. For those of you who are in the area of experiencing the solar eclipse, Watch how the light gets blocked, the old light, and then how it reemerges as the new light, just kind of metaphorically speaking. While all the rest of us, we're just going to be tuned into it and saying, yes, a shift is definitely taking place. It's time for our light within our own being and for this planet. That's when you take a good deep breath, and after all these lifetimes, after all this hard work, take a good deep breath and say, all is well in all of creation. With that, I am ADAMUS of Saint Germain. Thank you.
And so it is. With that, please stay in that energy of allowing, feeling into it, breathing into it. Stay with that beautiful breath, breathing and allowing. Breathe as the human with the soul, the master. Just let it flow. Let it flow. Really feel into this. Feel into I'm the light, the imagination at this beautiful time, this very beautiful time. Be that breath. Flow with it. Allow your light to shine. Thank you for being with us. Thank you.